Hello YouTube and welcome back to all Flads. This is Block and Load. This is the latest game from Jagex and I am lucky enough to be involved in the alpha. It's coming to betas fairly soon and you can actually sign up for that at blockandload.com. And before we get too deep into what is Block and Load and I take you through my strategies and things like that and we talk about the game, wanted to go over just a couple of sort of FAQs that have been doing the rounds already on the forums and Reddit and whatnot. People have a fairly checkered history of Jagex, rightly or wrongly. That's a lot of it's down to individual circumstance, of course. They also acknowledged that Ace of Spades wasn't the best game. Now, the choice of words that they used for Ace of Spades, and I believe it was the European Ideas Director or something along those lines, called it a 4 out of 10 piece of shit. The one thing you've got to remember is that that 4 out of 10 piece of shit was carried incredibly hard by the community, and there are a lot of people that created a core element to that game simply through the community, and I like to think that I was one of them as well. So yeah, you can hammer Ace of Spades all you want, but it brought a lot of people together and there was a lot of good people trying very hard with that game. So just remember that as much as possible. But is it Ace of Spades 2? No. This is the thing that is really starting to go, is where is this Ace of Spades 2? No, you've got to get your head around the fact that yes, there is a heritage in Ace of Spades, and that's sort of where the next question about why does the title sort of font look exactly like Ace of Spades, it's just a nod towards its heritage, and that's all it is. The game itself is entirely different. It's completely focused around team-based mechanics, going from one end you have two teams, they then build and destroy and fight and just basically create havoc in the various maps that we have, and they try and do the various objectives that I'm going to show you in a bit. But that's the only links to Ace of Spades, like, really, are the fact that it's blocky, you can destroy and you can build. Other than that, we're looking at a brand new set of mechanics, very cool art style, and just a completely different take on the FPS team-based shooter. Okay, so now we've got those questions and my little moan about what they said about Ace of Spades out the way, I think it's time that we went and had a look at the characters and some of the maps. And I've also got some gameplay where I've edited it down, because the games can take sort of like 25, 30, 40 minutes at a time, and I spend a lot of my time underground, but I'm going to take you through that in a second. So anyway, on to the characters, and this is where you start to get a feel for the slightly quirky, slightly crazy nature of the game, whilst also trying to get your head around the fact that there is a lot of tactics and strategy involved in this game, and it's where it sort of drags itself away in the main part from Ace of Spades. And I'm going to keep referring back to that because it is an underlying point that people need to understand. However, the characters, they're very cool, they're very fun, and they are supposed to be. That's part of the appeal of it. It is a very attractive looking game. So you've got like Eliza, you've got Tony, you've got OP1, you've got Nigel, Cogwheel and Sarge. They all have their own individual attributes that will help from within the game. And as you can see, these are like their basic stats. You could even pull up a slightly more in-depth stat there as well if you want. But the loadout is where you sort of set out your stall with regards to your gameplay. You've got this block here on the left that will stay regardless, and that's different for every character. It's individual. It happens to be a satchel charge here, but then you've got these other 10 blocks, so you can decide whether you want to be an offensive, defensive sort of player, and that's entirely your choice. So you get to choose how you want to load out your player. Plus you get the chance to choose your weaponry and how you want to go about that as well. It's a very, very diverse skill set needed to play with all the characters, and the balance is actually really nice, even with OP, who's got no long range weapon but has lethal damage in close. So it depends on how you want to play it. Anyway, let's get into some gameplay and I get to show you a little bit about how we go about playing this game. So at the beginning of each game you get a length of time to do your defensive work and your building and your construction around your shield generators first, and depending on what map you're playing you'll have 2 shield generators and a life cube, which I suppose you could call your ancient if you like. That would be the best way to describe it. these sort of times are gonna show you if you got your loadout right, because it's not vital to have like a completely defensively minded loadout from within your team, but it certainly helps. So if Tony's not got turrets, for example, although I think he comes with turrets by default, but if you're not using a Tony, then you are going to have to work in a slightly more creative manner towards your defence. And if you get that wrong, you're going to find out very quickly, because the enemy team that's on offence, they are going to come in and simply waltz through and start destroying your shield generators. So that's obviously what you're trying to avoid. Now, with there being 3 of them, your tactics towards sort of defence are going to have to be primarily focused on the first shield generator, of course, but you're then going to have to look backwards with regards to how you defend in the event of that first one going down, because you can get snowballed if you haven't considered this. And again, it's another sort of line of where strategy plays a huge part from within this game. And I know that a lot of people have seen it at I-53 and enjoyed it, and a lot of people have seen the trailer that's recently been put up on YouTube and just written it off as some sort of generic first-person shooter. And once beta comes out and you get to have a look at how incredibly team-based and tactical this game is, there's going to be a lot of people with either egg on their faces or just straight up change their minds. Either way, it's going to be best that they just consider for a short time that this is one of the good things that's come from JGix, and I know that a lot of people, like I said, want to bash it. However, as you can see, my dude spends a lot of time underground. It's kind of my thing. So with regards to my loadout, I decided to go for a slightly more offensive mind, and like I said earlier, I prefer to get involved in more of the infiltration side of things. So I won't be running across ground trying to get into the combat side of it. Combat is going to change, by the way, and graphically speaking, there have already been tweaks that are going to be released into the beta. So if you don't like the art style quite yet, it's going to change again. So I'm guessing for the better. But my character, I like to get underneath the enemy bases, put down spawn points, put down radars, and actually be a hindrance and then move my team forwards. I'm not really into the defensive side of things, and that's fine, and that's why Sarge sort of suits me, because I can go digging under the enemy base. As you see here, the first actual spawn point I put was actually by the last base. That was me kind of thinking ahead, if you like. But this actual spawn point I'm putting here is near the first base, and I don't know how much of a help I am to my team. I try to be a help, and I think by placing the spawn points and the radars I am helping. But there's quite a learning curve to getting good with your individual characters. So whilst I've played for a fair while, I must admit, I have been trying to sort of just nail Sarge and be of use up and around the enemy points, because all the spawn points I get down, I can actually then move my team forwards, and if it moves the team forwards, we're going to be getting close to the win. So I'm going to say I'm doing okay. Now this is their first shield generator that I've managed to infiltrate. I've also got a spawn point, so I'm going to be joined by Shawnee in a second as well. And from here, you got to go and attack this shield generator first. Now you can go at the shield generator in varyingly different ways. You can shoot it with your gun, you can hit it with your spade, or you can use like your ultimate. Mine for Sarge is that grenade in the middle. Does quite a lot of damage, and it's certainly anti-personnel, that's for sure. You hit someone with it, it's doing damage. But if you shoot it with your gun, doesn't really do a great deal of damage. The best way to take down the shield generator is to actually hit it with your melee attack. Now this varies from player to player. I've got a shovel as Sarge. Tony's got something that looks like a spunk gun. Eliza's got this like acid sprayer as well, and all tying in with their characters. They were the mortars that came down there, I believe, and that's from a cogwheel, and yeah, it does a lot of damage. In fact, it can't have been from cogwheel because we haven't got one, so I'm guessing that was Shawnee just blowing something up. But like I said, you need to go in with your spade, so you've got to get really close, and this is why the defensive side of things, and then conversely, the infiltration side of things, this is where they really meet, because your defence has got to be able to deal with someone tunnelling in under. So if you build a massive hole around it, they can't tunnel under. And if you put a load of turrets in there, they can't actually get that close. And if you tried to shoot the enemy sort of shield generator, it would take you hours, and you come up on the minimap and you'd probably die. This is one of the things you've got to get round. So, as you can see again, I'm underground. I do like to be here. It is my kind of specialty, because I'm out of the way. I don't die too much when I'm underground either. And this is moving on to the second base. Now, what I try to do is get as many of these spawn points down as possible, and that then allows my team to move forwards. From the defensive point of view, though, it's very important that once you get your setup right, you then have strong defense. So you probably have, in a 5v5 game, 2 defending. Sometimes it gets left with Tony defending on his own. He's like relied upon too heavily. But you get the idea. There'll be 2 defending, 1 sort of in the middle. If they're playing Nigel, it's a sniper. I think I actually prefer him to sit back with Tony and actually do a lot of the killing. And then you have someone like OP that can climb walls and get in and around the sort of turrets and these shields, and they'll do the killing from there as well. That's where his sort of main strength lies, I think. And then you've got 2 sort of dedicated attackers. So the combination of Eliza and Sarge is actually a very good one. You get a lot of damage with Sarge's, well, his bomb, his satchel charges, his rocket launcher, and Eliza also does damage herself, but she's got massive area of effect sort of abilities. That's where her strong point comes in. Plus she can heal, as her ultimate it does like an area of effect healing for friendly. So she's also very good for just keeping the charge going, and she can put down like health blocks as well. All of this sort of adds towards like the overall team mechanics, and if you don't have these, that's when things really start to go wrong. Now, like I said before, these games can last sort of up to 40 minutes. So we are talking like long Dota times in terms of gameplay, and that's been done on purpose. It has been aimed to get to that point, but with regards to how you play throughout that time, you can actually reduce that massively, and people's loadouts and people's defensive strategies will get found out fairly quickly. So a game could end in 5 minutes if the defending team hasn't done a great deal of defence. And as you see, we're now making our final charge in, and this is one of the problems with not defending across all of your cube and your shield generators. You can get wiped out quite quickly, and the snowball effect can come into play very early. And now that's got good and bad points as well, obviously, because if you're on a defending team, it's not much fun to get steamrolled, but the lessons you learn seem to be exponential. There are constant lessons to be learnt about how the game is played, how you actually want to go about your character loadouts, how is best to try and take on enemy defences, and because every game is different, that's where you get like the main enjoyment out of this game. So we're now wrapping up for what has been, it's been a long video, but I haven't done one of these in a while, and I wanted to give you a good look at some of the gameplay just so you got an idea of it. We're going into beta in the next few weeks, I think, so probably mid-December beta, perhaps early 2015, but you can sign up for that at blockandload.com. From a gameplay point of view, do I enjoy it? Yes, very much. I love it. Now, you've got to... I'm not influenced by Jagex. I have been given his keys, and I have been treated very nicely by them, but ultimately, this is my honest opinion. It's incredibly fun, it's very mixed pace, it's very strategic, and it's going to be a winner. So that's my sort of early first look at it. Thank you very much for watching. I have been Old Flads. This has been Block and Load. Cheers and goodbye.